Hey, this is Chaplain Chat. I guess I have a portable, movable recording studio because Norris, I'm in your home right
Yes,
now.
you are.
Yeah, and
Glad to hear
Norris, yeah, this is great. Quail Park, this is where you're at. But Norris, I'm calling this. Norris, we got to know each other at Cafe 210 last Saturday.
you. Yes.
Uh, you were about ready to walk out, and Richard wouldn't let you walk out.
Richard is good at that. Yes. He always puts the bee on me. He wants me to sing. And I've been stalling him off, but I said, well, maybe next time. So,
But he wanted you to say something, so you did a little.
yeah. Well, Charlie Lockhart uh, was singing, and John Trask
Yeah,
pushed me up there and said, go up there and sing with him. Go up, go up.
yeah, yeah.
So I did. Then
And then Richard wouldn't let you go. And when you started the share, and everyone, we were just a little captivated. And you weren't looking. Richard's mouth was going, and my mouth was going. And so I said, man, I want to do an interview. And we're going to do this, by the way, in 3 parts. I guess I'm just going to call this Norris the Vet. And Norris, this is part 1, and so you're on. Sure.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Norris Jernigan, and I'd like to share a story with you about the Manhattan Project, which I became part of.
I'm going to stop real
Yes.
quick. No, we're going to keep going. But Norris, how old are you?
I'm 99.
And where are we going in October?
We're going to Israel.
We're going to the whole. Now go
Going to the
on,
Holy
Norris.
Land.
I wanted to put that in.
Yeah.
So you're back on now.
Okay. So, anyhow, back to the Manhattan Project. This story is going to be in 3 parts. The first part is more or less indicating some incidents that happened through the years that contributed in some way to the success of the Manhattan Project. We'll start with way back in 1915. On February 23rd, 1915, Enola Gay Tibbets gave birth to a son, and they named him Paul W. Tibbets Jr. The W stands for Warfield, but I never heard him use that. He was always just W, Paul W. Tibbets. And his father had broken a tradition of long term where the male members of the Tibbets family would be some degree in medical field, doctors, dentists, whatever, but they were in the medical field. He broke that tradition, and he was bound that this young lad that they just gave birth to would pick up the pieces and become a doctor. That was his dream. We'll move ahead now to 4 years this time, to 1919, when Sir Ernest Rutherford, a New Zealander scientist working in a laboratory in Cambridge University in England, stepped out of the laboratory and announced to the world he had successfully split an atom for the first time. Great accomplishment. Moving ahead another few years to 1925, I came into the world, June 11, 1925. In 1931, the Japanese Empire had a desire to gain more territory, so they had access to more natural resources because they were very limited on natural resources in Japan. So they invaded Manchuria, marched through Manchuria and on through China, and appeared to be headed toward territories that were owned by Great Britain, the Netherlands, and the United States. Besides that, they were inflicting cruelty to the Chinese people. They would literally line up civilians and use them for target practice, that type of thing. They were raping all of the women and girls and just devastating humanity there. The United States raised strong opposition to that and expressed it to them, which didn't sit well with the Japanese. They felt they were a divine guidance was letting them do this, and we had no business butting in. That was kind of their feeling on the thing.
Wow.
Anyhow, we'll move along here then to 1939. August 1939, Albert Einstein wrote a letter to President Roosevelt, and he was indicating to him that due to recent research on creating a nuclear chain reaction using uranium. It appeared that very large amounts of power could be developed. And if that power could be harnessed, it was conceivable that very large, powerful bombs could be developed. The president didn't get back to that letter because of the events in Europe. It took most of his time. And finally, in the fall of 1939, he got to that letter. And as he read it, he pondered it and said he just could not conceive allowing Hitler to go ahead and develop one. Because in that letter, Einstein had indicated that he felt that the German government were already doing research in that area. So the president organized a committee to commence immediately to research the use of uranium in developing such a weapon. Okay, we'll move ahead now to 1940. The United States did something that caught the Japanese attention again. The U.S. Naval Fleet headquarters was moved from San Diego to Pearl Harbor. That alerted the Japanese in fear that the United States was getting ready to interfere in their conquest of Southeast Asia. So they began immediately planning how they could slap the United States on the wrist and tell them to butt out of their business. One of the options they had was bombing Pearl Harbor, because that was the main thrust in their planning. Well, on December 7th, 1941, that exactly is what happened. The Japanese Empire launched this attack on the United States at Pearl Harbor. They really did a lot of devastation there, and they really crippled the United States, but they were not devastated. They were not broken. The United States sprung back immediately. The very next day, on December 8th, 1941, the president met with a joint session of Congress, and that's where he made his famous infamy speech. You probably have heard of it, asking Congress to declare war against the Empire of Japan. Congress voted immediately. The Senate voted 82 to nothing. All the senators there voted unanimous. The House voted 388 to 1. There was one vote. A lady from Montana didn't want us to go to war, so she voted no. By 1942, with research on developing the atomic bomb spread all over the United States, it now became apparent that some official organization needed to be created governing this research and development, and would be implemented to construct that atomic bomb. In August 13th, 1942, the Manhattan Engineer District was established.
Howard needed the Manhattan.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
with
yeah.
Leslie Groves, General Leslie Groves, as the head of that. And he was from the Corps of Engineers, and really not his expertise of knowledge about developing an atomic bomb. But he was appointed to head that project up. That name was later changed to Manhattan Project. And 1942 now found this Paul W. Tiddits that we started with as a lieutenant colonel commanding a B-17 unit in England. And he had expertise himself already with his flying and heading up a group in North Africa. And now he was in England flying missions. And on November 25th, 1942, well, back up a little bit here. Research was scattered all over the United States, being done mostly in laboratories of universities. And what they needed to do was to get everybody together, because this guy had an idea, this one, another one, all the way, and all coming up with different ideas. So the need developed to get them all together in one place so they can compare ideas and maybe come up with one final method of developing this bomb. So on November 25th, 1942, Los Alamos was selected as a site for the atomic bomb laboratory, and J. Robert Oppenheimer was appointed the laboratory director. On December 2nd, 1942, a group of scientists led by the scientist Enrico Fermi, an Italian scientist, conducted an experiment uh, of using graphite and uranium at the University of Chicago. And they were successful in creating a nuclear chain reaction for the first time. Well, that was good news for the project because that was one of the steps. It was an absolute necessity if they were ever to develop that type of weapon, to be able to have that a nuclear chain reaction. That's all part of the detonation of it. And it was successful, and they were able to control it by using the graphite. Apparently, I don't understand the process because it wasn't my expertise. But you know, if it had been conducted carelessly, they could have set off an atomic bomb explosion right there in Chicago. But anyhow, it was successful, and they were able to successfully create that nuclear chain reaction. So the die was cast. There was no question now, but eventually they could develop the knowledge of how to construct this atomic bomb.
This is just part one. I got to tell you, this is exciting. So we're going to do part two of Norris the Vet and this story. So hang on, part two will come soon.